I'm not going to say too much. He's got like a lot, so I want you to just go over like the hook grip, and then you can go over just like your positioning stuff.
So right before we talk about
just really quick for the people. This is again Andrew. He's got a 760 deadlift at 198, so he's gonna.
I also have pulled some crazy stuff with straps.
Yeah, over 4 times body weight with straps. Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to say before was that that we didn't really touch on was with the mixed grip. People have a high tendency to tear their biceps with a mixed grip, especially if they're trying to jerk the weight off the floor.
Yeah.
So building tension in the lift is very important, that you're easing, not necessarily easing the weight off the floor, but you're taking the tension out of the bar before you pull it. If you see someone with a bent elbow before they pull, there's a high likelihood that they're going to tear their bicep, because it puts a lot of an impact force on your bicep tendon that will cause a rupture, which is why you see it a lot in deadlifting. Anyways, so hook grip. It sucks, it's painful, but you can hold on to a lot more weight and you can get your shoulders into a way better position. It's extremely important with sumo. A little bit less so important with conventional. And the reason why is because in sumo, people tend to helicopter a lot more. So if you're able to get both of your shoulders set so that they're even and not diseven, because when you have your shoulders set back with an underhand, this arm is going to be higher up than your shoulder that's going to be overhand, okay? So with the hook grip, essentially all you're doing is you're bringing your thumb across the bar, and then you're taking your middle finger and you're wrapping it over the top of your thumb, and then your pointer finger and your other finger as well too. And what this does is it causes, when you squeeze this finger, it causes to lock this thumb in the bar, and essentially it's a weightless grip. So when I set my hook grip, I can sit here all day. That weight's not going to move. Now when you get to the higher loads, sometimes you'll have issues with it popping, and usually that ends up being callus issues. But if you have long enough fingers to be able to hook grip, because the issue most of the time is that people's fingers will come to here. If you get to here, you're not going to be able to hook grip. That finger's going to slide and pop right off. But if you can get that first knuckle over the top of your thumb, then you're going to be able to hook grip, and you're going to be able to hold on to that weight pretty well. It's going to hold on pretty well. So that's hook grip. Does anyone have any questions about that?
And then Andrew will work with you guys. If that's something you want to try today,
yeah.
Andrew can work with you guys on that. Again, if you do have shorter or sausage fingers, it's kind of be a little more problematic. If you do pull someone, you do have longer fingers, it definitely could be a huge advantage. So,
I know sometimes if you have a big pull with hook grip, are you working up with hook grip all the way up to your warm-ups, or are you using straps? Or?
Yeah, so that's really depending on the individual person. So personally myself, I've always worked up without straps, but I know Yuri Belkin, he takes his straps out like fairly early on to save his hands, and I think that's something that I'm going to try and implement too. I just haven't had the time under the heavy weights to be able to try that out yet. Mm-hmm. I think that it could be beneficial for some people, but the key is you can't neglect your grip. Yeah. I'm definitely a big person that neglected my grip early on in my training, and it caused severe issues. So stay away from straps as much as you guys possibly can. They're evil, essentially.
We can talk a little bit more straps as well. I would say that we have a great puller. I think he'll be here tomorrow, but Anthony Gargulo, he doesn't really have a social media or anything, but he's a 777 deadlift in the USAPL. He's only done like 2 or 3 meets. He had one of the top pulls at the World Nationals this year. He's a hook gripper as well. He tends to do like he'll do like singles in his warm-ups, he'll just do like 1 rep hook grip, and if he's doing a lot of reps, he'll do like mixed grip and stuff for that. But he's still practicing the technique, and then if he's doing a lot of volume, he won't do a lot of volume with the hook, and that works kind of well for him. And definitely as far as straps are a tool like anything else. As a general rule, like we usually advocate if you want to use straps for like your supplemental work, your secondary work, but try to do your main exercise without straps, so you build that strength. Another thing to consider is like the deadlift bar is going to be a little sharper, so you got to take that if you're going to be hook gripping. You got to keep that in mind.
It's also millimeters smaller in diameter too, so that helps. It makes it easier to get a hook grip on. So the deadlift
once
bar.
we got a grip set, let's just talk about now your position in the bottom and what you're trying to.
Everybody's going to have different biomechanics. The longer your femurs are and the shorter your torsos are, the more advantageous you're going to be at pulling sumo. And the reason why that is because you're going to be able to get your torso upright a lot more, and it also is going to be on your external mobility of your femurs. So if you can externally rotate your femurs and get them opened up a lot more and get your hips closer to the bar, wedged up closer to the bar, you're going to be a lot better at pulling. So I'll just try and show you guys how I pull personally. So I take a very wide stance because I have extremely long femurs compared to most people, and I have a very short torso. And I tend to get myself down very far in the bar and get my torso very vertical, which is gonna be more mechanically advantageous. It's gonna require less force output, and I'm gonna be able to lift more weight. And that's ultimately the goal in powerlifting, because the smaller the muscle mass you have and the more weight you can lift, the higher your Wilks is gonna be and the better of the power lifter that you're gonna be. So I prefer the double overhand hook grip because it allows me to set my shoulders in a different position. So what I do personally is I internally rotate my shoulders and externally rotate my forearms. And as you can see, instead of being in a position like this, I'm gonna be in a position like this. We just cut down the range of motion about 1 inch of the lift. Now when you're doing that, your shoulders are gonna be sitting in front of your lats. You're gonna be retracting your shoulders, but you're gonna be turning on your lats, and that's gonna keep your shoulders safe. Now if you're hanging your shoulders like this and rounding your thoracic, that's bad. You're gonna hurt yourself. So if you wanna use that technique, then use it, but make sure that you're pulling that bar like we were talking about before, keeping those lats tight, keeping those retractors firing, so you can keep your shoulders safe. So ultimately, when we sit down in the hole, we want our femurs to be at about a 90-degree angle. So if you look, when I pull myself into position, see how my shins are gonna be perfectly straight? If your knees are caving in front of the bar, this is not a good thing. You need to change your positioning, or you need to work on your mobility if you want to be in that stance.
Can you just show them from, like, you don't have to do it with the bar, just show them kind of from the side what that looks like? So I just want you to see, like, how, like close he gets his, yeah. So it's literally he has his pelvis on top of the bar, so like it's not squatting down. So good. Keep going.
So essentially, I'm doing almost like a little bit of a leg press. I'm not really. I mean, this is not really close to how most people deadlift, and so that's why it can be advantageous, I guess. So one thing that I'm a very big proponent of is tension in the bar. I think that you should be like lifting up the weight before your hips even get down there. If I don't have if I'm trying to actually put force into the bar, because I'm always trying to move the weight as fast as I possibly can, the bar will break the floor before my hips get into position if I don't have 500 pounds on the bar or so. And that's because I'm pulling the slack out. So I typically set my grip, and as you can see, I'm already pulling the tension out of the bar. Using the weight to bring myself down into position and driving up. And from there, it's just vertical, if you can get into that positioning.
Yeah.
So, set your feet into your positioning, get your grip, pull the tension out of the bar, bring your hips down, and up. Questions? No?
What's the realistic learning curve for someone going from
Months.
Yeah, many months. Yeah. So I personally, I have my athletes spend months training their mobility before I even let them start pulling sumo. So they'll be pulling conventional beforehand. So.
I don't know, this is a really quick thing. Is anyone training tomorrow, or is anyone planning on training? I know some people. All right. If you guys are in town still and you're training tomorrow, like Andrew will also be here, and we can go over a little bit more in detail, like some of the mobility stuff that you could do. Another thing that's really helpful, and we both agree on this, is you just start off elevating the weight, do what you can with a good position, and then you reduce the blocks from the as you get closer to the ground. So just doing like a block pull and then going down to the floor slowly over time is a really great way to kind of train. As you do the mobility with the block pulls, you don't want to do poor sumo deadlifts and then create a poor pattern, and then it's going to be you're setting yourself up for failure that way. So.
But one of the key things is you see a lot of people when they get into this stance, their knees cave. If your knees are caving, you shouldn't be in that stance.
When you see what happened to the bar came forward, it's not good. So
you'll see some people try to get away with this, and they can get away with it because they're teeny. Like it's usually the guys that are like 5 foot tall, and they're like 132 pounds, and they can get away with it because for them, the bar is like, it's a lot higher up on their shin. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
If you're 6 foot, it's a lot farther down on your shin than if you're 5 foot.
Sure.
So for those guys, sometimes they can get away with it and having the bar sit a little bit far in front of them, but you really should be thinking about making sure that your knee is behind the bar, all right?
It's a good cue.
Tension in the bar, pulling your hips down into the bar. We're using the weight to drive our hips closer to the bar, okay? Bringing the chest up and driving up. All from there, it's all just locking out your knees and extending at the same time. If you're able to find that motion at the same time, that bar path should be directly straight. Now, if you're one of those pullers that does this and then comes back, that's very mechanically disadvantageous. You don't want to be doing that. A lot of the time, those people either A, lack the mobility and need to work on opening up their hips, or B, they have very weak hamstrings.